Hello and welcome to another Teatime Talks. Today it gives me great pleasure to have a special guest with me. In fact, it fills my heart with a lot of pride, and we have some bragging rights because I am with a wonderful Indian British celebrity chef Vivek Singh, who's a restaurateur and media personality known for his innovative take on Indian cuisine. He is the CEO and executive chef of four London based modern Indian restaurants and one Oxford based modern Indian restaurant. So he started this chain of restaurants called Cinnamon Club, Cinnamon Kitchen, Cinnamon Soho, Cinnamon Bazaar. We've been hearing about all of this for so many years. Author of many wonderful cookbooks. And might I add, our classmate from IHM Pusa. Welcome, Vivek. So nice to have you on my show.
Thank you, Shivani. What an awesome introduction. Thank you very much. I mean, it fills my heart with joy too to be speaking with you. And
Great.
and you're very kind as a friend. You have just built me up big time. Such a
And
pleasure. Thank you.
thanks to the internet, we've always followed your brilliant career, like right from you've been a regular face on BBC's Saturday Kitchen and Madhur Jaffrey's Curry Nation, at home with Rachel Allen, NDTV Good Times. I love watching your recipes that you put up on YouTube from time to time. So you've come a long way, I would say, Vivek, from the young guy we saw in IHM, the Taurian, a bit
Oh.
serious, very focused even at that age. How does it feel today?
I don't know. How does it feel? It feels no different than it felt 28, 30 odd years ago. The one thing I can say is that I've had a lot of fun along the way. I have a lot of fun doing this. Um, and, it's never got to a point where I've looked around and said, should I rather be doing something else?
Mhm.
I've been on a journey and I've enjoyed every day of it. And I suppose, time goes quick when you're having fun.
Yes, excellent. So take us back to your childhood. Did you ever imagine as a kid that you will become a famous chef? I know you come from a mining community of Asansol, where your father was an engineer, and then suddenly, you became a chef. How was that?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shocker, wasn't it? I mean, but choosing hotel school. I mean, we went to hotel school at the same time. You know that very few of us actually had hotel school as a first choice career.
Yes,
There weren't any role models. There wasn't television. There certainly wasn't food on television in the way that we know today.
yes.
So, I can't say I was inspired by Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver or any of that good stuff because we didn't have any of that growing up. In fact, even hotels were like looked at with suspicion, thinking, what kind of a career is that? Parents didn't know much.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the two acceptable routes to for most parents, and they would be happy with it, was if their sons turned into engineers and daughters turned into doctors, or vice versa.
Yes.
If you didn't do that and you then ended up being a lawyer or an IAS, a civil servant or something, that was still acceptable. Or if you came from an army or defense background family and you ended up in the defense, and that was something of pride and joy. But hotels, I mean,
Yes.
it was pretty. It was a curveball, and I think it was a curveball in terms of an opportunity for myself because I wanted to escape the small towns and the kind of um, experiences that I'd had. I was looking and seeking out other experiences, um, I'm sure it was a real curveball for my parents who thought, "Oh my God, इसका तो किसी भी engineering college में नहीं हो रहा है. What is going to happen? I mean, is he ever going to do something?"
Hmm.
But there we are, and then we ended up in hotel school. You did and I did, and there we were. I mean, when we look back at those 3 years, it was really fun. I
Yeah.
look back at them with fond memories, but I can also see that as a coming together of many different people in a short span of time, and a lot of people dabbling in lots of new experiences, but not necessarily. It wasn't for everyone.
Hmm.
Some people stayed and run the course, and some people went on and drifted into other things,
True.
and it's absolutely fine. Um, I did not grow up wanting to be a chef or dreaming to be a chef or whatever.
Okay.
Right. One thing I did, sort of grow up dreaming, and I put that down to my insatiable greed,
Hmm.
is that I was always very fond of good food. Even before I went to hotel school, I would gate crash, um, you know, strangers' weddings, and I'd
Oh,
go
wow.
and,
You've
you
done.
know, yeah, you all remember me as this sort of really focused, straight up guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember myself as that. I was extremely cheeky, very naughty, and I've had my share of have of mischief,
Okay.
for want of a better thing. So even when I was in Orissa, where I was growing up, I did a bit of graduation for a year before I went to hotel school. I used to go and jump weddings and do
Really?
all sorts of
That's
naughty stuff. Yeah.
news.
So I realized I put it down to my greed. I
Hmm.
was fond of good food. I would love attending weddings. I would love attending social functions and gatherings. And the occasions that I remember most fondly growing up, even in our household, were the ones where we had tons, dozens, if not scores of people around the dining table. And, just lots of food and all those celebrations, whether it was the Holi or Diwali. So all of that, I just put
Hmm.
down my love for food as something that, ended up or transpired in this way.
So, had you cooked before you joined IIT? Had you ever cooked?
Never,
Never.
never,
Okay.
never successfully, I have to say.
Okay.
Never successfully. I did with a friend of mine. We tried to roast some chicken once. We ended up burning it. But it was all, it was not the kind of thing that people did.
Mhm.
Certainly, when we were growing up, it wasn't normal to see boys in the kitchen.
Yes.
And no matter how much you like, your mom would cook or sister would cook, and if they weren't there, they would ask a maid to cook or somebody else. But they'd never expect you to take care of your meal, even if it was
Mm,
one meal in a year or
I know.
whatever.
I know the situation.
And fast forward to 20, 30 odd years now, I mean, our children, they are so self-sufficient. Our
They are
son can cook for himself, he can cook for a family, he can do whatever. It's a very different
wonderful.
world.
So then after Pusa, you went into the Oberois. You had a long stint there. Do you think that was the foundation of your craft and everything you learned about Indian cuisine?
Yeah, I mean, foundations for not just the craft. It was the most purposeful and useful time of my life. I mean, getting into Oberoi was an achievement in itself. I thought, oh my God, never really expected it, and it was brilliant. But
Mm.
very quickly you realize that lucky or whatever, you've had a good day, a good run, a good game, and you end up in the big league. You realize how little you know and how much more there is to learn and how much of an uphill task it's going to be. And certainly I had that realization. I thought for a fair few months, I thought, that I didn't deserve to be there. I had that imposter syndrome where I thought, oh, I really got to keep my
Really
keep my
unforgivable.
yeah. So, but then the most fascinating time, the most brilliant experience, because there are very few companies, and I know many, and I speak at many events, and I have been to many companies, and I don't think there are many companies in the world, let alone India, that invest in their people and give them the sense of that sort of pursuit of excellence, like Oberoi does. I mean, I certainly am one of those people who have benefited greatly from it, and I always take it for myself to give that credit back to Uber because I mean, we can all argue whether it was perfect or not perfect, whether there was, the hours were unsociable, whether it was too much work for too little money. We can all choose to remember things like that. But
Yes.
my thing was, and the thing that has stood me in very good stead is my pursuit of excellence. I've always maintained with my team that I'm not looking for perfection.
Mhm.
Excellence will do.
Okay.
Yeah, excellence is great because it does. It sets you out in a certain path, and you go on, and you can always better. You can always do better the next day, because the moment, the problem with perfection is that it is vanity, it is death. It stops you from, it
Could
prevents you
be
from
a
doing.
burnout also.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So, why did you choose Indian cuisine as your specialization back then? Because there were many other exciting things happening in India at that time.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't know if when I got into chefing, I thought, if I have to be a chef, then I want to be after a couple of years in the Oberoi, and I having done the training course where you do everything pretty much. You do a bit of pastry, you do a bit of garde manger, butchery,
Yes.
continental, whatever, Thai, Chinese, all
Mhm.
of that good stuff. I thought I wanted to be in Indian chef because at the time I thought, internationally, if anybody is ever looking at food, they would and they'd look at me and my skin. I'd never, I'd always be the subject matter expert, because I'd never have a situation where a European pastry chef would come and then he would be expected to know more, or he would ask me to do
Hmm.
things, do
True.
whatever. So I thought I'd never be told how to cook Indian food
Mhm.
because the color of my skin, and it'll have the most value internationally and otherwise. So I said I'll be the expert on India, and so that is what I did. But then I realized that the more I said to people that I wanted to be an Indian food specialist, certainly in the Oberoi, they kept pushing me into different kitchens. So I said, okay, I'm ready for the Indian. They send me to soup section.
Okay.
Thanks. The more I
That
said,
used to happen a lot in hotels somehow.
yeah, I said I love hotels. They send me to a flight kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say I like Indian food. They'd send me to open the French restaurant. But I cannot thank those people enough, because as a young person, you don't know what you want and what you do. The way that all those experiences help me shape
Mhm.
my learning is phenomenal. And every single one of those people who were on that journey, whatever they did to me at the time, which felt like, oh, they were really out to piss me off. But actually looking back, I think, oh man, that was so incredible. It was
Yeah,
really, really. So eventually, when I got my Indian kitchen, I was,
you were happy.
I excelled. Yeah.
But I'm sure the training helped because, what you have done with Indian cuisine today, you present it in a totally different way. So all that training of maybe French food and Italian food comes into play because you don't serve
Absolutely.
it in the traditional way.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of what you have created. So take us through that journey now, the opening of restaurants. Did you always want to open your own restaurants, and what was the vision behind each one of them?
Yeah. I mean, after having worked for, I think I stayed. You said in your introduction that I had a long stint at the Oberoi, and that is not wrong. I stayed about 7 or 8 years in all.
And that
Um,
was Raj Vilas also, one of
Yes.
the
So,
most beautiful hotels.
Calcutta, yeah, Rajvilas, the Oberoi flight services in Mumbai, obviously the Delhi TUND. Was a great journey, and a great sort of accumulation of ideas and experiences and techniques, and you don't value it enough then. But then the way you so rightly say, it shaped my thinking and approach towards food. Um, After having worked for X number of years in hotels, I realized that no matter how successful we were and how wonderful stuff we were doing, eventually for a chef to express themselves, it needed to be restaurants,
Mhm.
because in hotels food will always be secondary to rooms, and the moment I had that realization, I knew that I wanted to be involved in restaurants, and I wanted to kind of progress, and that expression that I was looking for my kind of food. Possibly it was a little bit ahead of its time in India. It was not needed. It wasn't going to succeed.
Okay.
So when the opportunity presented in London, I kind of took that. It was a no-brainer. But the key thing was that it was about taking everything people knew about Indian food and um, challenging their pre-existing conceptions. We said, okay, what do you like? So you like a curry, you're not going to get it. What do you like? You like a papadam and chutney? You're not going to get it, you know.
Okay.
Or what do you think you know really well? So we know a Rogan Josh really well. You know a Rogan Josh? I'll show you how to do it differently. So it was always this constant contrarian approach towards challenging every preconceived notion and constantly challenging the status quo was the very core of this expression. And so, drawing inspiration from traditional Indian cooking techniques and traditional Indian spicing, but combining that with the very best local seasonal produce that money can buy. That was the central ethos of all of our restaurants. Now, whether they serve the ministers and the Hollywood celebrities at the very high end, or they do a cinnamon kitchen type, mid-market 50, 60 pound a head, or it's a much more casual cinnamon bazaar at a 30 pound a head. They all carry the same ethos, that of innovation, that of creativity, and that of pushing boundaries.
Mhm.
That's in an essence, in a nutshell, that is what it is.
Okay. And I've seen some of how you combine the flavors. In fact, today I was doing some research, and you've got salmon with kasundi happening, mackerel with some Rajasthani paste, served with curry and spinach poril. I mean, that was amazing.
It's bonkers, no? It's quite mad. It If it
How,
works, it
how do you
works.
how do you visualize a dish like that, and how do you combine the flavors? If you could give us some mantras, tips for young aspiring chefs.
Yeah, I mean, how do you come up with something like that? It's first things first. It's I think it's this whole thing notion of not following rules or
Mhm.
looking beyond authentic. So the rebel in me, the one that you fail to recognize in catering college, in catering college, actually found its his voice in hotels or restaurants,
Okay.
um, where you think. Why is it expected that if you're going to have a southern Indian dish that
Mhm.
you will have all the components on the on the plate to be southern Indian?
Mhm.
So we challenge that quite a lot. We use, so for example, a piece of fish that is cooked in a tandoor, which is not very North Indian, way of cooking, and then combined with a Bengali do piazza sauce that is a very mustard based whatever, and then we might pair it with a lemon rice which comes from Kerala. And the fish itself is the best of British halibut, which is and in doing that, in just bringing together inspirations and ideas from uh, through different places, different parts of the country, but different people, more importantly. Because my team, I have some people from India, some people international, some people whatever. We all have different mothers. We all have different experiences of food. We all have different expression,
Mhm.
and part of the joy of that I'm able to do is I'm able to bring together these different things on a plate and put it out. It's a it just gives it the edge and the complexity that not many people are able to do.
Mhm.
So it's more about asking the question why not
Okay,
rather than why.
great. Now, Indian cuisine has always been very popular in the UK. As you yourself say, that they have this romanticization of the Raj era still, and they can't let go of their love for curry. But then, how did they take to your experimentation initially? Were there any hurdles, or did they say, like, what is this? This is not Indian food?
That's so true. That is so true. Um, yeah, you're absolutely right. The affinity, the affection, the understanding, the love for Indian food and Indian all things Indian for that matter.
Mhm.
I don't take any credit for because that's been going on for 2, 3, 400 years. The British have always had this sort of soft spot for India because it reminds them of the age, when the sun never used to set in the British Empire.
Yes.
you know, so it kind of they romance the idea of sundowners and sand dunes and what have you. Um, so they always loved Indian food, but they almost loved it too much.
Okay.
Yeah, they loved it too much. You can actually, it became that trusty old friend that when you're having a bad day and you're crying and you feel like crying, you go and cry over their shoulders. But the moment something sexy and happening and something else comes, you throw that friend away and you go to that new. Indian food was a bit like that. It was much loved, and there must have been 8,000 Indian restaurants up and down the country. But they were expected to be low quality. They were expected to be cheap and cheerful, and that I took exception to, because for me, from where I had come from, my own, five-star experience background, my own experience of Pusa. I mean, I was never brought up to think of Indian food as second grade, third grade, or fourth
Yes,
choice.
true.
For me, it had to be the first choice. So I was doing things differently, and they were saying, well, why, really. In fact, I was surprised by the amount of resistance I had from the British audience,
Okay.
because I thought they would lap it up. I thought they would just, initially, I thought they would just be so excited to see something like that. They were very possessive, and almost, they were slow to, they were resisting. They resisted the change,
So they
and
wanted the chicken tikka masala stuff.
I didn't expect, you're absolutely right. I didn't expect anything at all from the Indian audience. And I got exactly that. I didn't get anything from the Indian audience. So here I was in a situation where I think this food isn't for the British audience, and it's not attractive enough for the Indian audience. Who the hell is it for? you know, well, thankfully, those days didn't last long.
So there must have been one like turning point, or suddenly, I mean, is it like overnight it becomes popular, or probably your restaurant was covered well in some show or something? What would you pinpoint it as that moment?
I think moments were several. The moments were several. I mean, this was a really high profile opening at the time, and the restaurant was being
This is
covered
the
by
library, the first one. It's in a Westminster library.
the old Westminster Library.
Wow.
It was the most ambitious, the most audacious Indian restaurant project ever at the time. And I had it like a blank canvas in terms of whatever I wanted I could do with the food, and therefore this was the purest form of expression of how I saw high-end Indian food at that time, and it was just an expression of that. But I mean, we had BBC cover it. This restaurant was in the news for a couple of years before it opened. They had the BBC had followed me in India, cooking at Rajvilas and finishing off there, and us moving to the UK. It had a lot of press. It had a lot of, in fact, it had so much press that, in fact, we divided the audience into two camps: those that loved it and loved the idea of it and wanted to succeed, and the others who wanted nothing else, nothing more than for it to fail, because here it was. Yeah. I mean, but then, that is the thing about anything good. It always divides opinion. And that's what the Cinnamon Club did, with its unique and, sort of slightly different take on it. So yeah, there was that. But if I have to really think of the turning point of how the thinking had changed, I have to go back about 5 years from then. I was working at the Oberoi Grand in Calcutta, and a very good friend of mine, God bless his soul, he's no more, but Vinay Jairaj, he was the pastry guy, and he was participating in a competition. So he said to me, and he was one batch my junior at Oberoi, but he said to me, I'm going to cook at the Oberoi chef's thing, in Delhi. Will you be my assistant? Will you cook with me? Will you help me? And I said, yeah, I will. So we cooked together anyway. He was a great guy. He did very well. I mean, he was very proud. He was very passionate. He did very well. We didn't win. We came second. The people who came first got 4 night stay in Gopalpur on Sea, or whatever that hotel was.
Yes.
And we came second. We got a few books.
Okay.
And so he gave me one, and we kind of read it together. It was Marco Pia White's White Heat. It is the seminal book that I strongly recommend for any chef who's looking to make a career in cooking, to follow. It actually changed my entire thinking about being a chef. I had been working hotels, and at that point in time, I didn't know what I was doing, right or wrong. I could have gone on and become a glorified clerk, with a pen in my pocket and a clipboard in my hand, and just going around kitchens and taking orders and saying, "Hey, what do you want for tomorrow? How much spinach do you want, and how much aloo do you want, and all that." You could have become a clerk.
Mm.
Um, but having read that book, it really kind of brought the passion of it made me understand what being a chef was all about, and how you lead teams and how you think about menus and products and create a restaurant that hopefully at the time I would only dream of having a restaurant that would go on to become an institution, let alone London, anywhere in the world. But I mean, here we are, I'm so proud and so thrilled that the restaurant that we opened with no experience and
Mhm.
just only ambition
Okay.
and lots of sort of really mad ideas has gone on to endure and become a London restaurant institution and still survives and actually not just survives but thrives 20
Yes.
years on.
So that's remarkable. Sometimes a book at the right time can change your
Absolutely.
life. So you've also written so many books. Tell us about each and what, at least for the Indian audience, because I'm
Yeah,
sure it is very popular amongst the British because
yeah,
learning how to make curry, but then you've made it curry, classic and contemporary. So is
yeah.
there something Indians can also learn from it?
Oh, I'm sure we all can. We all can. Just a different take on um, on food as we know, and or we know and we love, but
Mhm.
can we love it another way? Because I believe that as easy as it is to fall in love with something, it's also perfectly normal to fall out of love with it.
True, true.
And as a chef, it's my continuous challenge not to let my customers fall out of love with either our restaurants, and not my chefs either. I there's nothing worse than having a dish on menu for too long where the chefs lose the love for it, because if they're just cooking it day in and day out, after a while that fatigue sets in and you don't taste things as much. You don't. So there's nothing worse than that. um, and that's exactly what I say. I my enduring view has been that nothing stays the same
Mhm.
and nothing stays good forever. Everything has to change and it has to evolve. And no matter how good I am today, if I don't keep on sharpening the pencil, I'm not going to be as good tomorrow.
Mhm.
And we all know, Shivani, we've been around long enough to know there's always somebody who's younger, who's cheaper, and who's better looking than us that will do it if we don't do it right.
That's the dictum of the hotel industry or restaurant business.
Not just hotel, but life, I think,
Yeah,
generally.
true.
So, if nothing stays the same and nothing stays good forever, it's the same for food. Food also cannot stand in a void and doesn't stand in or exist in a void. It needs to constantly evolve.
Evolve. And you sometimes you call your cuisine evolving Indian cuisine or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's evolving, it's modern, it's Indian, and so those three things, and not one thing is more important than the other. All three are equally important. And I think
And
that's what I kind of shared through my books as well,
mhm,
saying you eat differently in India now than you ate say 20 years ago. When
true.
we were growing up, we never used to have tomatoes throughout the year or cauliflower throughout the year. It was only
Yeah.
available in the winters, right?
Yes, yes.
But now they are available.
Very limited. But still, I find something wanting in Indian restaurants in India. You'll be surprised that when we go out, I rarely have Indian because it's still not that exciting. A few chains have started now. Like I like Farzi Cafe, what they're doing, and a few. I mean, but still, I feel there's scope for a lot of innovation.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so tell me, how was last year for you? How did the pandemic affect your business, and how did you utilize this time?
Oh God, it was really dark times. If I have to be honest with you, very very difficult and very very unsettling for a vast majority of teams, because after a while when you've been doing this for so long, and certainly in my case, I I made that shift. I'm not. I think like a chef for most of my time, but
Okay.
I don't just think as a chef all of my time, because I also run a business. I'm the CEO of these four restaurants. I have the responsibility of making sure that my team are looked after. We employ about 150, 160 people that they, are looked after, their families are okay, that our suppliers and our guests are looked after, and we can continue, in communication with them. So it's quite a, in that sense, the last year was incredibly difficult because you had no certainty, you had no. I mean, we were still lucky that here in the UK, the government really did come up with a very good support package for all, people who are in employment, and
Okay.
that helped a lot. Um, but I mean, what do you do then? You get it out of your system. You think you're going to do some yoga. I certainly thought I was going to learn how to play the piano. I'll learn how to play the guitar. I'll do some yoga. I'll bake a lot of bread. I'll become the next social media, whatever. I did a bit of television in the meantime, but you realize very
You've
quickly
grown your hair a bit. I can see that.
my
The
lockdown
ponytail
locks.
is something new. I
Yes,
like
I
the
did
look.
that. I did that. That is my lockdown locks. I did grow my hair, but I mean, overall, we did. You get it out of your system. You did a bit of Instagram live, and you did a bit. And then you realize why you don't bake a cake every day.
Hmm.
Because one day you have to leave your house, and you won't be able to get out of the door because you put up
True. I think
some.
we all went through that in India. We went through that pani puri phase and then chola bhatura phase.
Dalgona coffee,
Dalgona coffee and sourdough bread and
sourdough bread.
uh,
Exactly.
banana bread, things like that.
Yeah, but I launched. I mean, at the end, we did some. Whenever we were allowed to open, we opened restaurants for takeaway. And then when we were asked to close the second and the third time around, I launched meal kits.
Okay.
So we send people 5, 6, 7 course, kind of a big feast of a meal that has been cooked, chilled, packed up in and labeled up in all different accompaniments and everything. Small
Okay,
and
you can
small.
cook yourself.
Yeah, people need to just finish at home meal kits, and they are
Oh,
really
that's
good.
so wonderful.
They have been received so well. We received so much love from our audience for that. Every time I thought, okay, we won't sell many. We probably do 100 boxes. We get 400 orders. I mean, these were each order, each box was about 120, 150 pound
Oh, wow.
for two people. I mean, and there was so much. I mean, people. So I would laugh and I say, and I'm the same guy 20 years ago. I would say, oh no, we don't do takeaways because the
Yeah.
food is never as good or hot or whatever. Here I am 20 years down. वक्त की मार कहते हैं इसको. you know.
Also, improvisation. Because,
Yeah.
had the lockdown not been there, probably I wouldn't be interviewing you. Because that mental block was always there that, he's in London. But now,
Yes.
with the technology, you can contact anybody anywhere in the world. It's just that we didn't use it earlier to our benefit.
And this is so good. It's
This
as
is
good as
good,
speaking in person.
really. Now, tell us about some of the memorable dishes you have created. Dishes you are really proud of. Just if you
Uh,
can take us through those. I just
yeah.
want people to know your cuisine, what you create.
Yes, so I mentioned, it's about this being in this constant state of challenge mode where you're saying, "Hi, you think you know something? I'm going to prove you wrong, or show you another way of doing it." And so it does, it kind of creates this constant thing where you think, "Oh, chicken tikka karenge?" But no, but we can't do chicken tikka just straight like that. We have to do
Mhm.
chicken tikka with a twist because it has to be something different. So it gets your mental kind of thinking. Also, customers or guests do not expect to just come and have a chicken tikka at us. They know that they'll they'll get something different as an experience. So I what are the dishes that I'm really, so there is a we there is a dish that I mean it's a more recent one. It's probably come into existence in 2014, and we call it the Mumbai meal fry of lamb.
Okay.
And it's essentially, it just celebrates. I came up with this dish when we were going to Mumbai to represent a London Indian restaurant in the Taste of Mumbai, the first year ever. We did that, and I created that dish for it because I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to take to India that they already don't know?
Mm.
So here I was, I had two different kebabs. One was the like a pathar ka gosht, the Hyderabadi style, uh,
Yes.
that, and then um, there was sort of a galoti from Lucknow,
Okay.
and those two kebabs and a whole lot of chutneys were layered, one on top of the other in a puff pastry kind of shell, and not shells, but puff pastry sheets, filo pastry sheets. So it was like a stack, like a tower. And just I named it Mumbai Meal Five Lamb, and then it just kind of stuck and said, oh yeah, actually it is Mumbai, because Mumbai is such a melting pot. Here we are, we're talking about um, an influence from Lucknow and an influence from Hyderabad, and
Wow.
Mumbai houses everything. So
Sounds
that is one example. The other, I think you mentioned briefly, was the salmon carpaccio, the
yes.
kasundi
That was
action.
great. I saw it on one of your shows.
Yeah. So
On
for me, it's a salmon jhalmuri. Jhalmuri is what I grew up as a child. Eating off the street, coming back from school. On the way back, that used to be our snack. A jhalmuri has potatoes, has muri as in rice, and it has mustard oil and
mm.
peanuts. That's what it has. And Bengalis love fish and they love mustard. Nordic people love fish and mustard. British people love fish cured, oily fish cured. So here it is, it's something that is connecting so many different people in so many different levels. So that carpaccio of salmon has become almost like our international. It's a perfect example of a global global dish, because it connects the Japanese to the Nordic to the Europeans to the Indians to the Bengali in me. Everybody gets something from it, and so there are examples like that. You and then, but the vast majority of it is just celebrating the abundance of produce that the British Islands provide to us. Whether it's lamb or beef or venison. I mean, I couldn't cook legally with game in India. I'd
Yes.
go to jail, like Salman Khan. But here you are, in the UK from the 12th of August to the 22nd of February, we can legally cook with venison and pheasant and partridge. And for me, I mean, I'm a Rajput from India. It's like reviving a whole, connecting the past to the present to the future. Being able to cook with hunted food and game is something that a luxury I never had in India, and we
Yes.
do that. We are really famous all over the world with our take on game.
Mm.
So yeah, these are just a few examples.
So, what do you think UK did to your career, which probably wouldn't have happened in India, other than these fantastic produce you get?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a firm believer that everything that was meant to happen would have happened anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So India or UK or whatever. But in many ways, that I think of India as my place of birth or land of my birth. I do believe that UK has been my place of work. I have really had a tremendous sort of run and also a body of work that I'm incredibly proud of. The body of my work, whether it's on television or whether it's on, some of the educational stuff and running restaurants and the books. I think it's something that I was able to do because, for good or for bad, I chose to stay in one place and build on my body of work. So even though the work I do now is very different from the work that I did 20 years ago,
Yes.
but it has allowed me to create in the same way that if I would have chosen another path, I could have probably visited or lived in three different continents and experienced so much more. I
Mhm.
don't know whether I miss that. I probably miss that, but
Okay.
yeah, you can't have everything in life, right?
Yeah. So, what are your future plans? I mean, we'd love to see a restaurant of your kind in India. Any
I
plans?
think yes. Yeah, I think there are, and there are. I mean, I love the kind of energy that you see in the Indian restaurant scene now. It's incredible, and it's really knocking on everyone's doors in terms of the kind of innovation, creativity, a lot of the access, not to ingredients. I don't think there's access to good ingredients as freely and as easily still, but the access to good people is tremendous. I think the people equity that India has, very few places have. And I think that is the bit that is going to really set it up as a. I mean, I think it's an explosion about to happen. I'm really excited about the Indian restaurant scene. With or without me, I think it'll be in a really good place.
Okay, great. So now we have a rapid fire round for you, Vivek.
Oh my God.
I hope you're ready with your cup of tea, or did you have it? Because it's tea time talks. I forgot.
Okay, tea time talks. I finished my tea just.
Okay,
when
what tea do you like?
I'm a Yorkshire Gold man.
Okay, excellent.
Nothing too fancy. It's a builder's tea in Britain. It's our basic English breakfast tea.
Okay, excellent. So there are some quick questions. Your favorite hotel?
Okay, Mandarin Oriental.
Favorite holiday destination?
Ooh, favorite holiday destination. That's a tough one because I never go for a holiday to the same place ever. But if I had to pick one, it's probably going to be South Africa.
Okay. Your comfort food?
Amma's bun omelette.
Oh, wow. Oh, yes. How can we forget that?
Remember that?
Yes.
Perfect.
I think we spent 3 years having that in Pusa. Great. One chef you admire the most?
It's got to be more than one, but if I had to pick, I think I loved and admired Marco Pierre White, and I still do.
Yes.
Now the chef I admire a lot, Eric Chavot, I spent some really good time with earlier on in my career. Willie Wilson at the Oberoi Grand, don't know where he is now, but I mean, all these people have been instrumental in shaping my food thinking.
Great. Your favorite restaurant in London other than your own restaurants?
Again, a tough one because I rarely go to the same restaurants again and again and again. But I love Roca for its take on modern Japanese cuisine. Really love it. I do go to lots of different restaurants. The most recent one I've been to has been Core by Claire Smith. She won 3 stars in the 3 Michelin stars in the last sort of iteration. It's just the restaurant scene in London is incredible.
Great. Your favorite region in India in terms of cuisine?
Lucknow, perhaps, or Hyderabad, or was it Rajasthan? Too difficult to choose. One is very difficult, but I think I'll go with Lucknow still.
Okay, wow. Okay. Your top 3 ingredients to work with?
Oh, top 3 ingredients. Chili powder, good chili powder, ajwain, and mustard oil.
Okay. So do you also get into the medicinal quality of our ingredients?
Yes. I think not knowingly. I think for me, from a chef's point of view, everything must taste good. That's the first thing. But then after tasting, I think the next thing, if I place importance to, is how does it look? Because we all eat with our eyes first, and I'm a huge one on presentation. I like everything to have that level of care and that finesse and that layering. So I'm a little bit picky like that. I like things to look good. But after the presentation, then if you really have to, if there's anything that you can do to help people make that choice, I feel that talking about medicinal properties of the ingredients, and just showing that there is more to Indian food than simple spice or just lots of chili. We use so many ingredients because they do something to our body, whether it's fenugreek, whether it's haldi, whether it's mustard or whatever.
Oh yes. Yeah. So tell us some famous names who have loved your food in London and their favorite dishes in your restaurant. I'm going in tabloid territory in this.
I know you are.
But still, give us some fodder to talk about.
I know what you mean. I know this is so. No, you're right, and this is one of the things I rarely do. I don't
Yeah,
because
I know. Once I'd interviewed over email also, and you were very reluctant, but today I've cornered you.
okay, um, so I've just spent a whole lifetime telling people that we are very discreet and we don't let people know who comes and who doesn't.
Mhm.
So let me find a way of telling you because you're a friend and you have asked it in such a way. Okay, it would suffice to say that pretty much every single politician and prime minister in UK for the
Oh,
last 20 years has been to the restaurants. Yeah.
excellent.
Um,
That's so nice.
Okay, so every single politician of any word, any mention, anything, and among other people, I mean, they all have their different sort of favorites. But we are a kind of restaurant that don't go into people's favorites. They have to eat what is on the menu, so they never ask for anything else.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one instance where the minister for Northern Ireland, Dr. John Reid, who still remains a very good friend, and I mean, his office called me once and said, um, "Really sorry, we understand you're busy, but Dr. Reed wanted to speak to you. Do you have 5 minutes to speak to him?" I said, "Yeah, of course." And I knew everybody in the country knew who Dr. Reed was because John Reed was the only person other than the finance minister and the prime minister who had bodyguard because minister from Northern Ireland. So he was the third most powerful man in the country, and here he was on the phone line himself saying, "I'm really sorry, chef. I know you don't do this and you don't do things outside of the menu, but I've got 16 people coming in, 2 weeks time, and they have really requested if they can have the butter chicken."
Okay. Wow.
And it was such a request, because I had much smaller politicians coming to Rajvilas. Politicians, and not even politicians, their police, security guard, whatever, their maid, their servant, or whoever. And they would be so rude and so
Yeah,
ungracious
that
about
happens,
asking for things.
especially in India.
So, it was that is the one thing that I remember. But in terms of other people's, favorite thing, you know, I- a lot of these people I would not even be able to recognize, to be honest with
Okay.
you. Sienna Miller, the name rings a bell. Jude Law and Sienna Miller at the time.
Oh, I love
Tom
Jupla.
Quinton. Um, uh, Tarap, 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 Bill Nighy, of course. Um, what's the other really famous British actor other than the guy who was in Notting Hill?
Hugh Grant.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Um,
What would I be? I'm a huge fan of his. So,
Bill Clinton, I served.
what would Hugh Grant like to eat?
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon and so on and so forth. So
And
yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow at the time, and
that's
Catherine
nice. That's
Zeta-Jones,
quite a
Tom
galaxy of
Jones,
stars. Great.
quite a lot. Yeah, it's a galaxy of stars.
So
Yeah.
now I have another very funny and strange question. If a movie were to be made on your life, what would be the title and who would play your character?
uh, this is the one I thought, and I'm just gone blank.
Will it have cinnamon in it again?
No,
The cinnamon saga.
yeah, okay, yeah. If what would it be called? I don't know who will play. Um, I don't know who
Michael
looks like
Douglas, maybe.
because of Catherine Zeta-Jones. I don't know, maybe Russell Crowe or somebody who's as big and bulky
Oh, come on.
and overweight.
Great, great.
But the film could be called The Long Goodbye.
Okay, one. And one last one. Your most fond Pusa memory. I'll take you back to the college once again. Remember the Fukra jokes? All those funny things.
Absolutely.
And you had a group called the Falcons. You remember?
Yes, I
What
was
was
the
that all about?
Yeah, we had So the Falcons were, I mean, was this, what was it called? The magazine? Some Achar. You remember?
Yes, yes.
Some
And
Achar.
and we would send cat calls to each other. I think it was a great college to be in.
Absolutely fantastic college. So yeah, that has got to be um, one of the fondest memories um, at the time. Because you could go anonymous, you could have a pseudonym, and that
Yeah,
is what
we had a magazine called Samachar, but some Achar, and we
some
would send
Achar
cat
exactly.
calls. I think
So
it was something really sweet, and I tell my daughter about it. They watch all these American, sitcoms where high school, but I think whatever happens in American high schools was happening in our college at that time.
certainly,
And we
certainly
had that fast food place we had set up, Archie's.
Archie's.
So having a burger and
Was it Jughead or was it? I think it was Archie's. You're right. Right.
Archie.
But one of the fondest memories I have. I mean, when I look back, I think it was a seminal moment in my. I had come from such a small town. My first day or our first day. I can't remember whether you had come in to the college then or not. But the first day or the second day, I think there were very few of us. One or two people, Amit Banerjee and stuff.
Oh,
They were there a day earlier. They had already had their share of ragging. On
yes.
the first, on the second day, or whenever I had arrived, I think Asima Mittal and I had arrived on the same day,
Oh,
and our ragging was that in the lawn, all the boys and girls, the boys were on one side and the girls were on one side. And my job, I was given the task of going and proposing to Asima. Now you remember Asima?
she's
She
the
was
tallest one.
tallest girl. I was one of the shortest boys, and my thing was to go and propose to her.
Oh, so sweet.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'd probably only spoken to girls that were not my brother, my mother, or my sister, or my
Oh,
aunt.
God,
Maybe
really?
few times in my life. At that point, we barely, goodness, it was such a. I mean, I remember it. We still talk and laugh about it. I know Asima remembers it, but it was what an icebreaker that was.
We had quite a bit of ragging, but it was fun, looking at it in retrospect. So wonderful, Vivek. It's been so nice talking to you and reliving all these memories with you. I wish you all the best for your future plans
Thank you very much. Thank
and
you.
hope to see you sometime in India once things get better.
Absolutely, Shivani. Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.